What's up, YouTubers slash Mopar people? I'm out here doing a quick tech tip video on steel stamped intake gaskets and how to fix leaks and oil leaks, vacuum leaks, coolant leaks. I have the Mopar small block 273/318 intake gasket, steel gasket. This is an old one I took off the Project Undertaker, the 307 Buick motor on the hearse. Pretty much a little bit bigger than the Mopar big block ones, but kind of basically the same idea. Anyway, I try not to use these gaskets, but if I have no choice and I have to use them, like I've used them on a couple of other people's projects that we couldn't find gaskets that were made out of the Permatex / fiber material along with the metal inside, metal sheeting inside of it. What happens is a lot of people just throw these on there and they think by doing the proper torque specs and all that stuff and that it'll just seal it up, and they've never had any problems. Well, yeah, maybe you're the one that never had a problem with them leaking or whatever, but my luck and other people's luck, we've always had them leak anyway. I make sure the gasket surfaces are really clean. I even take a orbital DA with like 150, like 320 or 150 grit sandpaper and clean them all up real good, get them all down to bare metal. That's the key. You can't just clean the surfaces up, because that'll create a slick surface, and a lot of times the sealant and the gasket won't always stick to it. Anyway, what I do with these is I take a microfiber cloth and I go over these really good with carbon choke cleaner or rubbing alcohol. Make sure I get any contaminants off, because sometimes from the factory these gaskets come just like a brand new steel gas tank. On the outside they'll have a real thin coating of like some type of petroleum product to keep them from rusting up, whatnot. Anyway, I get them down, make sure they're completely clean. Hold on a minute, let me put the fan on here, because I think we've got a couple mosquitoes trying to come out this evening. I'm gonna have to put the mosquito killing bait out for them for this summer. Anyway, sorry if this is noisy. Anyway, I start off and I work on one side, and what I'll do is I'll take that black RTV high temp oil-proof, oil-resistant sealant, and I'll completely cover the entire gasket surface around the ports, all over here, around the bolt holes, everything. But when and then down around, through around, all over this stuff. But when I actually come in around the actual coolant ports, I use that little squeeze tube of Permatex gray sealant that's specifically for to seal coolant gaskets and stuff. What I'll do is I'll get one side done, I'll let it sit out in the sun on a warm day and let it cure, instead of letting it cure overnight, because that takes longer. But I've done both before. But anyway, once I know this side is completely dry and it's not sticky anymore, flip it over, do the other side. But once that's done and I know both sides is fully cured and it's got the sealant stuff, the gray sealant stuff here, and then the rest of the stuff's coated in the black RTV, I will make sure both side gaskets, intake gaskets, are done that way. And then like I said, I go back through on the actual heads and any of the gasket surfaces, and I use an orbital DA, make sure I don't get anything down in the engines. You know, I'll lay rags, or as I sand or something, I'll hook up a vacuum to it so it sucks all the stuff out, and I'd still go back through the vacuum, whatnot, get, you know, make sure everything's clean and no grit or anything's gotten anywhere. But anyway, right before I put these on around the gasket surfaces on the head, I will do the same stuff. I'll put a fresh thin coat, a black RTV, on the metal gasket surface of the heads, and I'll put that gray stuff around on the heads, port of the heads. And then I'll lay these down on there. And one thing I noticed too, especially on the Buicks and Cadillacs and stuff like that, I've noticed on some of their forums, because I was trying to find out more about Buicks and stuff since I'm having to work on a Buick. They're really successful, really prone, I should say, to vacuum leaks around the ports and down around the corners of where between the block and the heads meet. So make sure you get a good thing of black RTV sealing up around all that stuff like I do. Even if you got the rubber gaskets that go between here and the block and on top and in between there, I put black RTV on top and then on the bottom of the rubber gaskets anyway, just to make sure they seal up too. And what I'll do is I'll even take the bolts and run black RTV all over the threads, and I might put a little dab down inside the bolt hole where the threads are at. And that way I've done this, and come around the bolt hole on the gaskets and all that stuff, and I've done this in the past and it works. It keeps it from getting vacuum leaks. The oil doesn't come up around the bolt holes and leak out all over around your intake, or you don't have oil that eventually bubbles up around and pukes out around the head and the intake and makes your engine look oily and filthy. I've done this. I haven't ever got, and then took the time to do the proper torque specs, and never had the gaskets with the sealant already on it come apart off the gasket itself. It sticks. Did this to the Buick the same way. Has no vacuum leaks, has no oil leaks, especially around the bolt holes or the bolts. No coolant leaks. So that the 307 is good for that. That one's good. I had to do this to my buddy's Hazard County squad car. I had to use these gaskets. So in the process I just talked about in the video, I did that to his. And then also I happen to have some aluminum or some real thin sheet metal plating like this laying around. I did a measurement of this, and before I put the gasket down, right around the port on the head, I put some black RTV on there, or some high temp copper, like 700 degree Permatex sealant. Put it on there, push that little cutout piece of sheet metal on over the port, and then after it fully cured, I went ahead and gooped the other side and then laid this down over it, and that blocked off these exhaust crossover ports. The engines run so much better without that, unless you're in a really cold climate. And then you'll need these ports opened up for really cold winter mornings to warm up the intake and stuff with it. Anyway, big difference there. Let's see what else. Yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions or anything, let me know in the comment section. Hope you enjoy the video.